There are moments in life when your heart feels too heavy for your chest, when your thoughts become loud enough to drown out your own peace, and when the world feels like it's demanding more from you than you have left to give. In those moments, you don't need noise, solutions, or explanations. You need healing. And Allah, in His infinite mercy, didn't leave your heart empty-handed. He sent down a cure long before you even knew you'd need one. The Qur'an isn't simply a book to be recited. It is a divine conversation, a refuge for the broken, a guide for the lost, and a balm for wounds you don't know how to express. When you sit with the Qur'an, you're not just reading, you're being held. Every verse is a reminder that you are seen, known, and understood by the one who created the very emotions you struggle to articulate. Healing doesn't come from rushing your pain away. It comes from surrendering it. And when you bring that pain to the words of Allah, something miraculous happens. Your heart softens, your fears calm, and your soul begins to breathe again. The Qur'an doesn't promise a life without storms, but it promises light in every darkness, guidance in every confusion, and hope in every heartbreak. And when you return to it consistently, you learn that the cure you were searching for wasn't outside you. It was waiting for you in the words of the one who loves you most. The Qur'an is not just recitation. It is not a sound we produce with our lips or a melody we perfect with our voices. It is an experience meant to transform the deepest layers of who we are. When you open the Qur'an, you are not opening a book, you are opening a doorway. A doorway into understanding, into healing, into remembering who you truly are and who your Lord has always been. Recitation alone may touch the surface of your hurt, but reflection allows the words to sink in, to settle, to illuminate the places within you that you've kept hidden even from yourself. The Qur'an speaks to the part of you that the world can't see, the tired part, the overwhelmed part, the part that is longing for meaning, connection, and peace. There are verses that whisper to your fears and verses that speak strength into your weakness. Verses that call you back when you've drifted too far, and verses that wrap around you gently when you feel undeserving of love. The Qur'an is a living miracle, not because its words change, but because you change every time you return to. The same verse that once brought you comfort during heartbreak may later bring you wisdom during confusion. The same words that once moved you to tears may later strengthen you to rise again after falling. This is the beauty of the Qur'an. It meets you exactly where you are, yet always guides you to where you need to be. And this is why it cannot be reduced to mere recitation. If you recite without reflection, you may hear the sound, but miss the message. You may move your tongue, but not your heart. The true purpose of the Qur'an is not fulfilled until its words begin to shape your thoughts, soften your character, and realign your priorities. It is meant to cleanse the emotional and spiritual burdens you carry. It is meant to help you interpret your life through the lens of divine wisdom rather than worldly chaos. It is meant to heal what people could not understand, fix what life has broken, and restore what pain has dimmed within you. When the Qur'an speaks about patience, it is not merely giving you a command. It is reminding you that Allah sees your struggle and is preparing something greater. When it speaks about gratitude, it is not instructing you to ignore hardship. It is teaching you to anchor your heart in what remains when life takes away what you love. When it tells you to trust Allah, it is not asking you to abandon effort. It is guiding you to release the illusion that you were ever in control in the first place. The Qur'an becomes healing when you allow yourself to slow down, breathe, and actually listen. When you pause at a verse and ask yourself, what is Allah teaching me here? What is He trying to free me from? What part of my heart needs this right now? Healing begins when you turn your recitation into a conversation When you stop reading the Quran as if it's separate from your life and begin reading it as if it is speaking directly to your wounds, to your hopes, to your future. Some people search the world for peace, but overlook the peace that has been waiting for them in the words they recite every day. Some chase after love, validation, and comfort in people, forgetting that the one who created hearts has already sent down the cure for the emptiness inside their own, and some suffer silently, unaware that the relief they are begging for has already been written in the verses they rush through without truly absorbing. The Qur'an is not just recitation, it is revelation. It is not just sound, it is sanctuary. It is not just memorized, it is meant to be lived. When you open your heart to its meanings, you begin to understand that Allah did not send the Qur'an to decorate shelves or simply be heard. He sent it to decorate lives, revive hearts, and be still felt in every breath, every choice, every hardship, and every moment of stillness. When you allow the Qur'an to enter your life with meaning, it does what nothing else can do. It steadies you, it purifies you, and it brings you home, back to Allah, back to peace. True spiritual recovery begins when you sit with Allah's words with sincerity and openness. It begins in that quiet moment when you finally stop running from yourself. When you stop distracting your heart with everything the world throws at you, and you allow your soul to breathe. Healing doesn't start with perfection, it starts with honesty. It begins when you come to the Quran not as someone who has everything figured out, but as someone who is broken, confused, overwhelmed, or simply yearning for something deeper than what this world can offer. When you sit with the words of Allah without masks, without pretenses, without rushing, you give your heart permission to be real. And that is the exact moment healing starts. The Quran is unlike any other speech because it speaks to your truth before you even know how to express it. But to feel its impact, you must approach it with a heart uncluttered by excuses and expectations. When you sit with the Quran sincerely, you're not reading it out of habit or pressure. You're reading because you trust, even in your weakness, that Allah's words can reach places inside you that no one else can. Sincerity means you open the Quran the same way you open up to someone you trust, acknowledging your fears, your flaws, your hopes, and your confusion. It means you're willing to be transformed. It means you're ready to be honest with Allah and honest with yourself. And this openness, it is powerful. When the heart is open, even one verse can shift your entire perspective. Even one reminder can lift a burden you've been carrying for years. Allah's words don't need your eloquence. They need your willingness. They don't require deep knowledge. They require a deep desire to come closer to Him. When you sit with the Qur'an opposite to Him, you allow its guidance to enter the locked rooms of your heart. The rooms where you've hidden disappointment, anger, guilt, fear, or unspoken grief. You allow the light of revelation to touch wounds you've been trying to numb or ignore. You allow meaning to replace confusion and wisdom to replace emotional noise. True spiritual recovery does not happen through rushed recitation or empty repetition. It happens through presence. Through sitting with the Quran as if its words were sent to you today, for this exact moment in your life. It's when you read a verse and think, as this is for me, because it is. Every time you come to the Quran sincerely, Allah opens a door to understanding, a door to calm, a door to clarity. And when a door from Allah opens, nothing in this world can close it. Sincerity also means allowing yourself to be vulnerable. It means coming with your doubts, your questions, your uncertainties, not to challenge the Quran, but to be guided by it. To say, Ya Allah, I don't understand everything, but I trust your words more than I trust my fears. I may not see the path clearly, but I believe your guidance will lead me where I need to be. When the heart is sincere, even struggles become a form of worship. Even confusion becomes a pathway to clarity. Even tears become a means of purification. And openness means letting the Qur'an speak to all parts of your life, not just the parts you feel comfortable sharing. It means letting its verses shape your character, soften your responses, guide your decisions, elevate your priorities, and realign your intentions. It means allowing Allah's words to challenge you gently, to wake you up lovingly, and to bring you back firmly when you drift. When the heart resists, healing slows. But when the heart opens, healing flows. True spiritual recovery is not dramatic or loud. It is quiet. It happens in moments of stillness, in whispered prayers, in verses that touch you unexpectedly. It is the kind of healing that doesn't announce itself, but gradually turns pain into strength, worry into trust, and emptiness into connection. It is what happens when your heart finally bows before Allah, not out of fear alone, but out of love, a love born from understanding His words, feeling His nearness, and witnessing His mercy in the verses you read. So sit with Allah's words sincerely and openly. Let your guard down. Let your heart speak. Let the Qur'an answer. Because when sincerity meets revelation, when openness meets divine wisdom, something extraordinary happens. The soul begins to heal in ways you never thought possible. Every verse of the Qur'an carries mercy, reassurance, and guidance tailored for your struggles. This is one of the greatest miracles of Allah's words, that a single book, unchanged for centuries, speaks to millions of hearts in completely different ways. Each soul hears exactly what it needs, exactly when it needs it. This is not coincidence. It is divine precision. When Allah says His words are a healing, He means they are crafted with the knowledge of your fears, your wounds, your disappointments, and your silent prayers. Allah knows the heaviness you carry even when you pretend to be strong. He knows the thoughts that weigh on you in the quiet of the night. And so He placed in His book verses that descend into the deepest corners of your heart like rain falling on thirsty soil. There are verses that feel like a hand holding yours when you feel abandoned. Verses that tell you, in your lonely you, that your Lord is closer than your own breath. There are verses that teach you patience without dismissing your pen. Verses that teach you gratitude without overlooking your hardship. And verses that restore your hope even when life has drained your strength. You read a verse and suddenly it feels like it was written just for your situation, like it is speaking to your exact emotions. Because it is. Allah designed His words to reach you across time, across circumstances, across your inner battles and your outer chaos. Sometimes you open the Qur'an during heartbreak and you find verses reminding you that Allah is the turner of hearts and the one who brings comfort after loss. Other times you open it during anxiety, and you find verses telling you that nothing will touch you except what He has written for you. When you feel overwhelmed by the unpredictability of life, the Qur'an reassures you that Allah never burdens a soul beyond what it can bear. When you're trapped in regret or guilt, the Qur'an invites you back with mercy wider than the ocean. There is no emotional state that the Qur'an does not address. There is no struggle it leaves untouched. The power of the Qur'an is that it does not simply talk about life. It talks about your life. It speaks to the insecurities you don't voice, the prayers you whisper, the failures you try to hide, and the dreams you're scared to admit. Its verses are not random, they are remedies. They don't just explain what pain is, they teach you what to do with it. They don't just warn you of challenges, they equip you with guidance, perspective, and hope. The Qur'an doesn't aim to erase your struggles, but to elevate them, transform them, and turn them into pathways toward Allah. And the most beautiful reality is this: the Qur'an knows you. Not because the book changes, but because the one who revealed it knows your story from beginning to end. The one who created your heart also sent the verses that heal it. When you read the Qur'an, You are not reading ancient Jew. You are reading a message from the one who understands every detail of your life even better than you do. Every verse carries the weight of divine compassion. Every syllable carries wisdom crafted for the human soul. Every reminder, every story, every command, every promise is infused with mercy that is larger than your mistakes and more soothing than any comfort this world can offer. Some people search for reassurance in people who fail them, in temporary distractions, in fleeting comforts, unaware that the reassurance they crave has been waiting for them all along in the book they recite, but rarely reflect on. When you finally slow down and absorb the Qur'an, you begin to see that its words were not meant to decorate your shelves or be rushed through in rituals. They were meant to heal you, guide you, uplift you, and remind you that you are never navigating life alone. Every struggle you face has a verse ready to meet it. Every fear has a reassurance waiting in Allah's words. Every confusion has a guidance written for it. And every wound, no matter how hidden, has a cure woven into the verses of the Qur'an. You don't need to understand everything at once. You don't need to be perfect in your recitation or flawless in your practice. You only need to come with a heart willing to listen, because when you listen deeply, you will find that the Qur'an does not just speak. It answers. It answers you with mercy, with hope, with direction, and with a love from your Creator that surpasses any comfort this world can give. Healing through the Qur'an requires consistency, reflection, and vulnerability before Allah. It is not something that happens in a single moment, nor is it a sudden transformation that arrives without effort. Healing is a journey, slow, intentional, and deeply personal, and like every meaningful journey, it asks you to show up even on the days you don't feel ready. The Qur'an is a source of limitless mercy, but to taste that mercy, the heart must repeatedly return to it. You cannot expect healing from a book you visit only during crisis. You cannot expect clarity from verses you never pause to absorb. Allah's words heal the way rain nourishes the earth drop by drop, consistently, gently, steadily, until what was once dry and lifeless begins to bloom again. Consistency means you treat the Qur'an as a daily companion, not a seasonal comfort. Even if you read only a few verses a day, even if your recitation is slow, even if your understanding is limited, what matters is that you return, that you keep coming back to the one who never leaves you. Your heart softens with repetition. Your perspective shifts with repetition. Your soul strengthens with repetition. Just as the body needs regular nourishment, the heart needs regular reminders. And the Qur'an is the nourishment that keeps the soul alive, centered, and connected. Without consistency, the heart forgets. With consistency, the heart remembers who it belongs, but consistency alone is not enough. Healing also requires reflection, pausing long enough to let the verses sink beneath. Reflection means you don't just recite the words, you allow them to speak to you. You sit with a verse and ask, what is Allah teaching me here? What is He calling me toward? What is He protecting me from? Reflection transforms recitation into conversation. It turns the Qur'an from a ritual into a relationship. When you reflect, the verses begin to feel alive, personal, intimate. You start noticing meanings you never saw before, not because the verses changed, because your heart finally opened to their message. Reflection requires slowing down, and slowing down requires humility. You must be willing to admit that you don't have everything figured out, that you need guidance, that you need direction, that your own wisdom is incomplete and imperfect. The Qur'an speaks most clearly to a heart that listens, not a heart that rushes. Sometimes healing comes from one verse you deeply contemplate, rather than pages you read without presence. Reflection turns the Qur'an from a text you recite into a mirror that shows you your inner world, your fears, your weaknesses, your strengths, your potential. And this leads to the third requirement: vulnerability before Allah. Healing through the Qur'an demands emotional honesty, the kind you often hide from people, and sometimes even from yourself. Vulnerability means sitting with the Qur'an and bringing your real heart into the moment. Not the polished version of yourself, not the version you show the world, but the version that trembles, breaks, doubts, and hopes. It means admitting, Ya Allah, I am struggling. I am hurting, I need you. Guide me. Heal me, heal me. It means letting the verses touch the places inside you that you've protected for too long. It means allowing yourself to feel, to cry, to release, to surrender. Allah already knows every emotion you carry, but healing begins when you finally acknowledge them while seeking His guidance. Vulnerability is not weakness. It is the doorway to spiritual transformation. When you come before Allah with a heart stripped of pride and defenses, His words can enter in a way they never could before. The Qur'an becomes more than a recitation. It becomes a lifeline, a refuge, a conversation between your wounds and Allah's mercy. Consistency teaches discipline. Reflection teaches understanding. Vulnerability teaches surrender. When these three meet, when you return daily, reflect deeply, and open your heart sincerely, something extraordinary happens. The Qur'an begins to reshape you from the inside out. Your worries shrink because you're anchored in something eternal. Your pain becomes lighter because you understand its plan. Your heart becomes softer because you're connected to the one who created it. Healing doesn't arrive all at once. It unfolds gradually, beautifully, in the rhythm of your relationship with the Qur'an. So come back again and again. Reflect like every verse is meant for you. Open your heart with humility and truth. Because when you show up consistently, reflect sincerely, and surrender vulnerably, the Qur'an becomes exactly what Allah promised it to be: a healing for the hearts, a mercy for the believers, and a companion for every moment of your life. The Qur'an transforms pain into purpose by reconnecting you to the one who controls all ease. Pain by its nature can feel isolating. It traps you inside your own thoughts, makes you question your strength, and sometimes even makes you wonder if you will ever feel whole again. But the Qur'an shifts that perspective entirely. It teaches you that pain is not a punishment, nor a sign of abandonment. It is a pathway, a journey designed by the one who loves you most, crafted with wisdom even when you cannot see it. When you immerse yourself in Allah's words, you begin to understand that every hardship carries meaning, every struggle contains a lesson, and every tear is recorded by the one who never wastes your suffering. The Qur'an does not deny that life is difficult. In fact, it acknowledges your pain with more honesty than anyone around you ever could. It validates your heartbreak, your exhaustion, your confusion, but then it gently redirects your gaze. It invites you to lift your eyes from the wound to the one who can heal it. It takes your pain, raw, messy, overwhelming, and reframes it as an opportunity to return, to realign, to grow. Through the stories of prophets and the verses of comfort, the Qur'an shows you that the greatest souls in history faced immense hardship, yet their trials became the very means through which Allah elevated them. Their pain became their purpose, not because they were strong on their own, but because they anchored their hearts to the one who brings ease after every difficulty. When you read the Qur'an during a struggle, something subtle but profound begins to happen. The verses start reminding you that the storm you are facing is not random. It is carefully measured, perfectly timed, and deeply meaningful. You begin to see that the pain you're carrying is not meant to break you, but to uncover parts of you that you never knew existed. Resilience, humility, patience, trust. The Qur'an teaches you that your difficulty is not a detour, it is part of your path. It reshapes your pain from something you dread into something you learn from, something that pushes you closer to Allah rather than further away. And this transformation doesn't happen because your situation changes instantly. It happens because the Qur'an changes you. It changes the way you interpret what you're going through. It introduces you to a kind of strength that doesn't come from yourself, but from the one who holds your heart, your future, and your destiny in his hands. When you reconnect with Allah, truly, deeply, the weight of the pain begins to shift. You no longer feel like you're suffering alone. You no longer feel like you must carry every burden on your weary shoulders. You begin to trust that there is purpose in the process, that there is meaning in the waiting, that there is ease already written for you even if you cannot see it yet. Pain becomes purpose when you realize that your hardship is guiding you back to the one who never leaves you. The Qur'an teaches that difficulties purify you, elevate you, and draw you nearer to your Creator in ways comfort never could. When life is easy, you may forget. But when life breaks you open, you return with sincerity, with humility, with a heart ready to receive His guidance and mercy. The Qur'an uses your struggles to awaken parts of your soul that comfort kept asleep. It uses your pain to soften you, to deepen your empathy, to strengthen your faith, and to refine your character. And through this process, you begin to discover that there is a version of you that only hardship can reveal. A version that trusts Allah more deal, worships more sincerely, and sees the world with clearer eyes. You begin to understand that the purpose of your pain was never to harm you, but to bring you closer to the source of all healing. When Allah is with you, nothing you go through is wasted. Every moment of difficulty becomes a step towards spiritual growth, a means of earning reward, and a doorway to a level of faith you might never have reached without experiencing that hardship. The Qur'an transforms pain into purpose because it redirects your heart from the problem to the one who holds the solution. It reminds you that ease is not in the situation, it is in Allah's hands. And when you reconnect with Him, even the heaviest burdens become light, and even the darkest moments become filled with meaning. Through His words, your heartbreak becomes healing, your trials become transformation, and your suffering becomes a bridge leading you back home, back to Allah, back to peace, back to purpose. Real peace is found when you allow the Qur'an to become your daily refuge, not your last resort. Too often, we treat the Qur'an like an emergency shelter, something we run to only after life has already collapsed around, after our hearts have already reached their breaking point. We wait until we are drowning before remembering the one who can calm the waves. But peace was never meant to be something you chase only in crisis. It was meant to be something you cultivate and protect every single day through your connection with Allah's words. The Qur'an is not a temporary escape from life. It is the place where life finally makes sense. When you make the Qur'an your refuge, you start experiencing a different kind of calm, a calm that does not depend on circumstances, people, or outcomes. It's the calm that comes from anchoring your heart to something eternal in a world that changes constantly. The Qur'an gives you stability when everything else feels uncertain. It gives you clarity when your thoughts feel scattered. It gives you grounding when life tries to shake you. But you cannot experience this level of peace if your relationship with the Qur'an is irregular, rushed. Real peace requires a steady connection, the kind that becomes as natural as breathing, as necessary as food, as comforting as home. Refuge means you go to the Qur'an before you break, not after. You sit with it in your moments of ease, so it strengthens you for your moments of difficulty. You read it when your heart is light, so it knows where to return when your heart becomes heavy. You come to it not because something is wrong, but because it is where you belong. When the Qur'an becomes your daily refuge, you start to notice how different life feels. Problems still come, but they no longer overpower you. Challenges still, but they no longer define you. You begin to move through life with a quiet confidence, a steady trust, and an inner resilience that can only come from being close to Allah. This daily refuge is not about how much you read, it's about how consistently you return. Even a few verses each day can soften a heart that has grown stiff from the noise of the world. Even a brief moment of reflection can illuminate a mind clouded by worries. Consistency builds familiarity, and familiarity builds comfort. Soon the Qur'an becomes something your heart longs for, something you miss when you skip it, something you rely on more naturally than you ever imagined. And when that happens, peace stops being something you search for. It becomes something you carry. The Qur'an is filled with verses that soothe, calm, and reassure, but their effect depends on how open your heart is to receiving them. When you read only during crisis, your heart is too overwhelmed to fully absorb the beauty. But when you read daily, your heart becomes conditioned to peace. It becomes trained to release its anxieties, to trust more, to surrender more easily. You begin to handle life with wisdom instead of panic, patience instead of frustration, faith instead of fear. The Qur'an becomes the filter through which you see the world, and suddenly the world feels less heavy. Making the Qur'an your daily refuge also means allowing its guidance to shape your actions, decisions, and internal dialogue. It means letting its reminders interrupt your spiraling thoughts. It means letting its promises steady you when doubt creeps in. It means letting its warnings protect you from harm. Every day you spend with the Qur'an renews your connection with Allah, and that connection is where peace is born. Peace does not come from a life without problems. It comes from a heart connected to the one who solves them. It does not come from people's reassurance. It comes from Allah's words comforting you in ways no human voice. It does not come from material stability, because even the most stable life can feel empty without spiritual grounding. Real peace is what settles in your heart when you walk through life knowing you are guided, protected, loved, and never alone. When the Qur'an is your last resort, peace arrives late. When it is your daily refuge, peace lives in you. And a heart that lives in peace becomes unshakable, not because life gets easier, but because the heart becomes rooted in the one who brings ease.